Hey everybody, this is the Unknown Titanium Mechanical Slider by Unknown Maker. I don't know what else to call it. It's being sold by at least 3 different stores, 3 dramatically different prices. You'll see off to the right there. It's titanium. It is sticky because it's titanium. I knew better, but I figured I'd try it anyhow. We're going to take out the stainless steel balls and put in some polypropylene or PP balls that I got off of Amazon. And we'll talk about those a little bit too. So please, stick around. Okay, to get things out of the way, let's just talk about where to find this and how to find it. Go to AliExpress and do a search for titanium alloy push. That'll bring up at least 2 stores. The store that has this fancy one here, I really don't trust that store, but if you find it, you can take your own chances there. They are available in a variety of different finishes. They're all titanium, and I think they're all probably going to be a little sticky. But we're going to go through each one and talk about the variety here of possibilities and the pricing first. But I wanted to tell you how to find it. I may put a link in the comments to the store. I will. It was a store called TIVIVA, T-I-V-I-V-A, which I guess is TIVIVA, Viva, long live Ti. And they sell titanium stuff. So they had the best price. I think it was the reasonable price for what it is. It is nice. It is nice, but because it's titanium, it's got this sticky issue. And I think I can solve it at least good enough for me with the use of these plastic balls, which we'll also talk about because they're different and interesting. I bought these off of Amazon, and I didn't pay attention. I thought I was buying just ordinary nylon balls, or usually what they're advertised as is, what is it? POM, or nylon, a type of nylon. And I just didn't pay attention, and I ended up getting the PP, or the polypropylene. And they're visually different. I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not, but you can sort of see through them. Get close and try to focus. You can sort of see through them. It's almost as though they have a little white spot in the middle, but I think that's just a trick of the light. And polypropylene is what they make most of your disposable water bottles and stuff out of, I think. So I don't know if that's softer or harder than POM or nylon, but I'm going to get some 3mm nylon ones. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, let's move on from there. So let's talk about the different ones that I found. Now this one, the fancy one, is pretty fancy, but it's pretty unreasonable, I think, at what was it? Oh, it was over $150. I didn't write it down, but it was over $150. Now this one is available from INS Works, and it's reasonably priced at about $100. Now I'd say that's reasonably priced because they did a significant amount of finish work on it, but it's still going to be, they do a video, and the video makes these all look like they work perfectly smooth, and they do to a degree, but it's going to stick. And I think even the most expensive, fanciest one, prettiest one that there is probably going to stick. And then lastly, we have this one here, and that's the one I got from the TIVIVA store. And for $35, I think that's your best bet. It's the same thing. It's just not been fancied up or anything. And then you can also get it in 3 different finishes. So here is the stone wash. Here is the, sandblasted. And then the other one was the blue one. I'll just put those across the top there. And those were all $35 each. But yeah, prices vary, and I would say stick with the cheapest one, just because of the titanium sticking issue. And you can see in the reflections here, maybe the wear right along here, and right along here. Let me make sure this is focused. That is where it's wearing, so that's where it's rubbing the most. And if I flip it over and we look at this side, you'll see right along this edge and right along this edge, when the light catches it just right, it's a little hard for me to tell. That's where it's wearing as well. So the paradox here is the stronger springs and harder balls you put in it, the more it's pushing these two surfaces away from each other, and therefore it's putting pressure on these surfaces, and it gets sticky. But if you put lighter springs in and softer balls like plastic, it can alleviate the problem a little bit. This one I've found though that is it as soon as you put pressure downward, as soon as you squeeze on this, see, I can barely, my finger's a little bit moist now. When this is dry, it's very slippery, but that's not smooth at all. It's practically locking up. So it's not that kind of slider. I mean, it's great. Right now I have it as it came with the stainless steel balls and springs in it. There may be some different springs. It's hard to tell. I think I have the softest springs in here. The other set might be a little bit stiffer, but they didn't designate the difference between the two. They just threw a bunch in there, which is nice. I'm glad I have the spare parts. I'll show you that in a second. But that's where it's wearing, and that's the issue with it. But if you push it, if you can get used to pushing it from behind, or from the front, push it from behind, then you can easily push it back and forth without any problems. At least you should be able to. Now, with the stainless steel balls and springs in this, for some reason it gets finicky. It'll start to lock up. Right now it's behaving. Now I've turned it upside down, sort of, and it seems to work smoother in this direction than it does in this direction. See, it's getting hung up a little bit. Now, putting in the plastic balls seems to alleviate that for the most part, but you're still having to push it from the sides, and you're still having to avoid pushing down on it and squeezing it, because then it just gets too tight. So yeah, we'll talk about what came in the box next. It was a simple package, nothing too fancy, but the most important part are the spare parts. And you'll see that we have an Allen wrench, key, and 4 springs, and then 2 short screws and 1 longer screw, and they all have a little blue Loctite patch on there. Let's get this open and pull these out. Now, these white plastic balls, these are nylon, and those did not come with it. Those are mine. Those are what I've been using in it here lately. I put it back. I put the stainless steel balls back in to show you what it's like. It came also with 2 glass balls, but I immediately lost one of the glass balls. So it's great that you have all these extra parts. I think that some of the springs are a little bit stronger than the others. Just by squeezing them, I can tell this one feels stronger than this one. And I picked the lightest springs I could, because it seems the more, like I said, the stronger the spring, the more trouble that you run into. And I ran it on these nylon balls for the last couple of days. And with the help of my, if you watched my last video, I talked about the little lanyard attachment that you can put on things. That really makes this thing work a lot better. In fact, I'm going to go grab that in a minute here just to start to show it to you with that on it, and show you how much easier it is to use. This is everything it came with, and like I said, that's all good, well and good. The construction of this one is really interesting, and I am happy with it, really. For $35, I'm very happy with this, but I want you to be aware of what you're getting, and you might have to fine-tune it for yourself, and maybe the best way for you to try and use it, because like I said, squeezing it just causes trouble. But this, if you can get over the fact that this is not very cosmetically pleasing, well, it's on the bottom, so it really shouldn't be out there in the open too much if you have it out in your hand and whatever. But if you can get over that fact, this makes things so much easier, and it's pretty interesting. I'll show you here in the next segment. We'll take this whole thing apart, and you'll see the convenience of this little system. But I like the shape. I like the shape overall. I just wish that they would make these things in stainless steel and then offer that as an option. And titanium, it's always titanium alloy, it's never just titanium. And who knows what you're getting. I don't know if one behaves better or worse when it comes to galling or you know, getting sticky like that, but don't know. We'll take her apart here. Actually, you know what? We're not going to take it apart. I always get a little bit out of order and don't write this stuff down. It's pretty much off the cuff. I would like to do comparisons and weights and measurements, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So I brought a variety of things here to compare it with. We have the Mackie CP3. It's a little bit smaller in length and width. I have 01 EDC mechanical. You know what I'm forgetting to do, once again, is just at least compare them in their extended modes. Get it going here. Okay, 01 EDC, the Feelings slider in stainless steel. Now I have nylon balls in this, so it's very quiet. These are stainless steel. Okay, the stainless steel 1 POW. Okay, and the one I guess I found it closest to in size, at least in length, was the S Nano by Ant Design. Probably about the same width. Turn this puppy over. You know, I'd like to see Ant Design come out with a mechanical version of their slider. That guy's pretty sharp. There is a new version of this one I might check out at some point in time. But there you go. There are your comparisons. A few other comparisons to make, and similar and problematic, is the BM or Black Mirror space capsule, I believe. This is titanium, and it has either a brass or bronze insert. And you'd think that would be sort of a lubricating metal, but I think the fact that it's titanium, period, rubbing against anything, titanium just gets sticky, and I've just never cared for this one that much. Now this does have one of the magnets on the upper end has an issue where they've put a bad one in. It's not reverse polarity, it's not flipped over the wrong way, it's just actually a bad magnet where like the left half is positive and the right half is negative. It got charged in a funny direction. I sort of tested it, and I'd have to get it out of there, and I don't feel like doing that because I hardly ever pick this up anyhow. But I've used oil, and I put in tiny Teflon tape strips in here, and that just reduces the magnetism because you're spacing the distance between the magnets further and further apart. So I just took all the tape and stopped using oil, and now I just keep it as a collector piece and just occasionally play with it. But it is sticky, and that's because it's titanium. This is my only conclusion, I guess. This recent piece here is titanium, but it's only a titanium shell, and I don't know how much of that has to do with this one being sticky. But this is another one where I've sort of corrected or at least modified the stickiness problem by using nylon balls and light springs, and it works perfectly fine for me. I'm quite happy with it. This one is a little bit smoother, and when I look for signs of wear, because again, all the internal parts that are rubbing against each other that should be rubbing, I guess, would be the that looks like stainless steel to me. This middle plate, I believe, is aluminum. And then, of course, the springs and balls were metal. Now they're the nylon, and so they're a little less friction-wise. But when I look at this for signs of wear, I see, if you can see in the reflection possibly, there's a bit of a wear line here and here on these outside edges. And I don't know, that could be this, see the shell has an edge that sticks up just a little bit higher than this internal plate. So it is likely the culprit rubbing against this, which I think is aluminum, and I think that is what makes it sticky. It's just titanium in contact with anything. It just does not make a good friction surface. So, but size-wise, look at that. Those are about the same height when they're extended. Now, if I flip this over, it becomes more rigid, or it goes from a standard to from a dense pattern to a standard pattern. More like from 8 clicks to 16 clicks. Something along those lines. Anyhow, I'm getting sidetracked. And then we'll just compare these two. They're about the same when they're opened up. Okay. Let's go ahead and do weights and measurements. There are no magnets in this. 57, 56 grams. When closed, we are at 47 millimeters by 26, and then at the thickest point in the middle, about 13. When it's fully extended, we are at 62. Let's go ahead and take this thing apart. I'm just going to use a 5/64 Allen. That seems to fit the best. And I'll tell you what, I'll just show you first off how easy it is to change the balls and springs. We don't even have to take it apart. These two outside ones are simply set screws. And behind the set screw is the spring and the ball. The other side is exactly the same. So now, see how free that slides? And see how, if I put any pressure on this, I'm going to squeeze them together now and try to slide them. It's almost impossible. That's what happens with titanium. So, yeah, if you want to change the springs and balls, that's all you have to do, is take out those two screws, plop in your new balls, plop the springs back in, put the screws back in. And the screws go down the whole way. You could pull them out a little bit, maybe, to fine-tune things if you really wanted to. But I just turned them down the whole way because they do come to a stop. It seems as though that was part of the design intent, and it seems to work pretty well so far. Like, I did have issues with this, being too tight because of that, and I tried backing them out, and it didn't make too much of a difference. Let's talk about the middle part. So if you want to take this apart, or if you need to take it apart, or if it came apart on you by accident, you want to put it back together, that's where this middle piece comes in. And there's a little bit of a surprise. It's a good design feature. There's two screws in here. So the first one's the one that you see on the outside. It's the same size as all these, which is another good thing. And then down deep in here is the other screw. And it is the long screw. When we looked at the replacement parts that came with it, there's one long one and a couple extra small ones. So what this does, that's your dead stop. And that travels up and down this track here in the middle, and when it hits that edge, that's what keeps this from sliding off the end. So that's what purpose that serves. Now the whole thing slides apart. And maybe you could see, if I get up close to the camera, maybe you could see those wear marks a little bit better now. Right along this edge, this edge, this edge, and that edge. Other than that, it's a really great design. If they made it in stainless steel, there would probably be none of these friction issues. So I'd like to see that very much. Now, we'll get back into reassembly here in a second, but let's talk about those balls. So well, I thought they were inside that bag. They weren't. The nylon balls that I've been using seem to have gotten buggered up a little bit. At least one of them has gotten buggered up just a little bit. And I don't know if this was the culprit or not. I really don't know. But those balls, strangely enough, as most of the balls that I have on hand are they're just salvaged from other toys. Now, I don't know which toy it came from anymore. Come on, turn on, you bugger. 0. But most of them are the same size, and it's kind of a weird size. Now these calipers are horrible. And if I bump it the wrong, if I bump it the slightest wrong way, it goes crazy on me. 2.87 millimeters. Now that's an odd dimension, but it's almost 3 millimeters. So I went on Amazon and I looked up 3 millimeter balls. And I ordered these, thinking that possibly they would come in undersized at 2.87, 86, around what the same size as all the other balls are. But these happen to be exactly 3 millimeters. So slightly bigger than these balls. But I did try it earlier, and they do fit. The only thing I haven't done is give it sort of a long test to see how they're going to hold up and everything. Like I said, I do not know if this material, PP, polypropylene, is softer, or if it's going to hold up better than the POM. Those are POM, I would believe, nylon. I don't know which one's going to hold up the best, but we'll find out. And the other thing to talk about is, before we put the balls in, as we put it back together here, is when you go put the dead stop screw back in the middle, let's just go ahead and do that. So here's the longer screw, that's the dead stop screw. And I'll just put it on the end of the bit here. Turn it in. Turn it in all the way until it stops. Don't crank on it, just turn it in all the way till it stops. Now you'll notice you've locked up the sliding mechanism because you've turned it all the way down. Now crank it back one whole rotation. That's probably enough. You don't want to go too far, but you want to go far enough that there's clearance so that it does not interfere with the general sliding of it. You want it to stop it, but you don't want it to interfere with the sliding. So now the screw is in just the right location. And if you're like me, you're asking yourself, how's that screw going to stay in that exact location? And their simple solution is to put another screw behind it. So to show what that does, I have this little thing here, and it's just part of I have a homemade, what would you call this, a recording rig made out of PVC pipes, and that's what my lights are clipped onto, and that's what my phone's clipped onto and everything. And it's great. I've been using it for years now. But that's where this comes from. And this is the same sort of thing that's going on inside of here. You have a loose screw on the inside, and you've gotten it to your right location. You've gotten it exactly where you want it to be. Say it's right here, and you want it to stay there. Well, you can bring another screw up behind it and tighten it up, and now they're both locked into place. So that's how you lock a screw into place. It's sort of in reverse. I'm showing you with nuts instead of screws, but that is what's going on here. We've set the depth of the screw exactly where we want it to be, and now we'll take one of these other small ones and we'll put it in behind it, and let it, as soon as it touches, then I'm going to give it just a little bit of a torque, a little bit of a twist to tighten it down. Now that should have locked those two both in place in the middle. Now there won't be any issues with it sliding or coming loose later down the road. That's the idea. All right, let's try putting in some of these PP or polypropylene balls. Hey, look at that, I grabbed two. And then we'll just drop right in there. And then we'll put the springs in on top. And then all you gotta do is put the screws in on top of the springs. None of this interference here. There we go. Don't ever force anything. And that should turn in all the way until it starts to feel tight, and then just snug it. Don't crank down on it. Same thing with this one. Got confused there for a second. Turning that in until it stops, and then snugging it down. Let's go ahead and get rid of these two balls too. So that's quite a different feeling than before. I mean, even, of course it's different than the stainless steel balls being in there, but I mean, even more different than the nylon balls. Now remember, I said the nylon balls had a diameter of like 2.87 millimeters, and these polypropylene balls that we just put in are exactly 3 millimeters in diameter, so they're a little bit rounder, a little bit bigger, and that might be why this is feeling a lot smoother. But you can see the moment I try to push down on this, I encounter friction that just makes it want to lock up. But as long as I hit it from the side, going forward and backward is no problem at all, and 99% of the time, that is what I'm doing. I slide it forward, and I slowly bring it back when I'm walking around, and for that purpose, it works perfectly fine. But it's not easy to slide back and forth. It's easier now than it was, but I think the mere fact that it's titanium against titanium is working against you, no matter what. So, one of the things I talked about earlier was my little, if you watched my last video, I talked about these easy to make little, I did a do-it-yourself video just to show you how to make it. I'm not going to make these and sell them, but I found these clips, and I thought it was handy to tell everybody where I found the clips. And I showed you how to make one of these, pretty simple. And I'll tell you, it makes all the difference in the world when it comes to using one like this that's a little bit problematic, because now I can really just get it from behind and not have to grasp onto it much at all and push it back. It does not help when traveling in the back direction. It just doesn't help. It's too far to reach back here with your thumb, and like I said, if you try to push down on it and bring it forward with your thumb, it just locks up. It's not slippery enough. So the lanyard helps a lot, and that's how I'll probably use it, and the plastic balls help a lot, and that's probably how I'll keep it. And I'll get back to you on how well these hold up. I'll use this for the next couple of days, I think, and just see how the polypropylene balls hold up. And I'm going to order some 3 millimeter nylon balls, and we'll try those out too. They should come in at exactly 3 millimeters, since those did. I don't know why the ones that are in all of my Chinese pieces are like 2.86, 2.87 millimeters. I have no idea why that would be, and it's hard to find them like that, at least at your ordinary places like Amazon. I'm sure that if you looked hard enough, you could source maybe any size that you want. But yeah, just to recap, I think that putting the light springs and nylon balls or polypropylene balls at 3 millimeter or less as replacements for the stainless steel make a big improvement. And then you can even improve it further by adding your lanyard of choice there to the back of it, so that you can get a little bit better grip on it. And yeah, I think then you have for $35, you have a winner. But no, not unless you really want one that's fancy. You're gonna pay through the nose for it. But even the place that sold the really fancy one was selling the ordinary one like this for much higher than $35. So your best bet is to go to the store that I put down in the link in the description and in the links, and maybe get it from them. But it's sticky, you know, it's a little sticky, and I probably just made the same mistake again. But I'm really curious about this one I'm about to show you. It's on the way. It's on the way. I don't know when it's going to be here. Maybe this week. But it's titanium too, but it's 3 levels. Here, let me show you. So it's got a little rabbit on there, and of course last year in China was the year of the rabbit. And well, it's not funny at all, really. I was going to say the funny thing about this one is that there were only 2 available. I went to a couple different shops, had it. And they both happen to say that there's only 2 left. And since most of these AliExpress stores are drop shippers, you know, they either lie about the quantity that they have, or they happen to both be, you know, in sync with each other because they're telling the truth. And when I bought the last one, or the second to last one, theoretically, because there were 2 left, that seller, and I'm not going to give you the seller or the link for that one, for this one I'm showing you here, that seller must have just be trying to take advantage of the fact that there's only 1 left. He practically doubled the price for the very last one. So that's a sneaky Pete there. I don't like that kind of behavior. But at least I got one at half the price that guy is now asking for them for. On a side note, you know, if you were looking for anything strange, you could probably find it secondhand on AliExpress if you look hard enough, and if not, if you're on Facebook, there's a few people to approach on Facebook, and the best group to go to is, of course, the Daily Fidget. Start there and ask your questions. But there's a few people there, a few guys, independent dealers that live right outside of China, I believe, and they have better access. And they can find you rare pieces at let's say fair prices. So yeah, if you want something bad enough, you can find it if you know the right people. Now, I don't normally have to resort to that sort of thing, but anyhow, I think that is it. I think that's all there is to say about this one. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. Bye.